All right, our first Impact show. I'd love to get into the whole history and the wackiness that is Impact Wrestling, but unfortunately, we really don't have time. There were 11 matches on this show, and while these matches were reasonably timed out, it's still a lot of matches to cover. So let's get into it. We have two Countdown Show matches. The first one is John Schuyler versus Trey Miguel, who Miguel is the X Division champion, but this was not for the X Division championship. Right off the bat, Miguel did a Tiger Fan through the ropes and hit a big drop kick. Schuyler hit a big power slam out of that. Schuyler hit a Tiger Driver into a Boston Crab. Miguel fell out of that. He hit a Pele kick. Miguel hit a springboard drop kick and then followed that with a senton. Schuyler came back, hit a rolling senton off the top rope. But then Miguel came back, hit a Tiger Fan kick through the turnbuckle ropes, and then followed that up with a flying meteor from the top rope for the three. Not a bad match. Good high spot in X Division match in a way, although Schuyler is not technically in the X Division, but yeah, the X Division can be weird sometimes, but still, this was a good, solid, pretty standard kickoff show match. And then our second match on the Countdown Show, because they call it Countdown, not Kickoff, but you get the idea, is Tanil Dashwood versus Havoc. So Tanil Dashwood, formerly Emma in WWE, is part of a tag team called The Influence, alongside Madison Rayne, and they're managed by Caleb with a K. And Havoc is part of a group called Decay, where she teams primarily with a wrestler named Rosemary. Right off the bat, Havoc blocked a crossbody and hit Avalanche in the corner. Tanil Dashwood kind of did a hair pole slam through the ropes after some interference from her teammates. Dashwood hit a drop toe hold, sending Havoc into the turnbuckle. Followed that with two of her sort of fly. What did she call that? Was it the Emma board? Yeah. She did the kind of the cross-body into the lower turnbuckle. It's at this time, though, they're preparing to take a big selfie, that suddenly Caleb gets a phone call, and it's from the Influence's chief rivals in the Knockout Tag Division, The Inspiration. That's the former Iconics from WWE. And yeah, basically it's a phone call from them. We're like, what's going on? Why are they calling him? And he's like, no, you don't understand. I don't know how this happened. And it caused a big enough schmoz that basically it distracted Tanil Dashwood long enough that Havoc got up hit the tombstone pile driver on Tanil for the 3 count and the victory. I will admit, I think the Influence and the Inspiration is one of the more interesting feuds going on right now. And this does add a nice wrinkle to it, but, just kind of... This existed to further that feud, and overall the match itself was just kind of clunky and forgettable. Okay, our next match is the 4-way match to decide the number 1 contender for the X Division Championship. Chris Bay of Bullet Club, Ace Austin, Jake Something, and Mike Bailey. Right off the bat, it looks like basically they've been teasing the idea of Ace Austin trying to win over Mike Bailey, who just recently arrived in Impact. And it does seem like they maybe strike a brief alliance just as the match begins. So at this point, Jake Something clotheslined Chris Bay over the top rope. Something then sent Bailey out of the ring and followed that up with a Torpe Suicito. Bay used Jake Something as a springboard, did a drop kick on Bailey. Bailey came back, hit an outside moonsault on everyone out on the outside of the ring. Bailey broke up pin attempt with a shooting star press. But honestly, I think the big star of this match was Jake Something, who's he was the larger of the competitors in this X Division match. And I guess, again, if you're not entirely familiar with Impact Wrestling, the X Division is sort of like the Cruiserweight Division, but there's no weight limit, so technically anyone can compete in it. And so you do get these really unique athletes that kind of compete out, who could compete in these types of matches and can do a lot of the maneuvers that cruiserweights can do, and so that does add a level of excitement to it. And Something actually blocked a crossbody from Ace Austin, hit his finisher, which is Into the Void, which is the spinning sidewalk slam for the 3 count and the victory. So, yeah, and this kind of leads after, a little afterwards, they do some backstage vignettes with Ace Austin confronting Miguel and Jake Something. In the background, there's going to be a tag match, and Austin is able to convince Mike Bailey to team with him again on the basis that he said that Trey Miguel and Jake Something said really nasty things about him. And the idea is Bailey, even though he's a seasoned professional, is kind of this naive French-Canadian who just doesn't understand how Americans work. So, yeah, we're going to get that kind of relationship going on here over the next few weeks, I guess. And that leads us into our next match, which is Jonah versus Black Tauros of Decay. It was also in there. Jonah is the former Bronson Reed from NXT, if you who was in line to maybe get another or to get a major title push, and then got released in the whole Triple H purge, unfortunately. Tauros is a Mexican wrestler who is also, like I said, part of the Decay stable alongside Rosemary and Havoc, and he's managed by a guy named Crazy Steve. But Tauros kind of dominated this match. He flipped out of an arm wringer and hit some big chops. Tauros hit a jawbreaker, which really shook Jonah for a while. Jonah managed to get in a couple of good moves. He gorilla press slammed Tauros into the top turnbuckle in one of the corners. Tauros hit hit the jawbreaker. Tauros hit. Let me try this thing. He hit what did I write there? I'm sorry. He hit a big slam and followed it up with a Phoenix Splash. Jonah came back. He hit a press slam off the top rope, followed that with a Flying Thez Press. He then hit another big maneuver and followed that up with a top rope splash for the 3 count and the victory. This was pretty much a filler match. Like I said, this wasn't bad. I was a fan of Jonah in NXT as Bronson Reed. I know he's capable of some great stuff, and this was not bad. It's just, one, he looked kind of outclassed in this, and 2, it kind of just screamed filler, like they needed something on the show. And again, a show with 11 matches on it maybe didn't need filler. Other than that, though, it's kind of fine on that. Like I said, not too terrible. Okay, our next match is Eric Young versus Switchblade Jay White of Bullet Club. Right off the bat, Young is, obviously you remember Eric Young if you have watched Impact Wrestling for the longest time, or you might remember him as part of Sanity in NXT. So he started his own group called Violent by Design with Cody Deaner and Joe Doring, and he sent them to the back. So he's taking on the leader of Bullet Club on his own. Both men landed a lot of kidney punches early on. White hit a big back body drop out of the corner. And then Young really came back and fought back hard in this match. Probably his big point in this was he hit a sort of hanging Death Valley driver. He got him up in the fireman's carry. And instead of just rolling into the Death Valley driver, he went up and then kind of down in a sort of brainbuster-like maneuver. It was actually really cool. Young hit a pile driver on the apron. White came back. He tripped up Young while he was on the turnbuckle. Young fought back in an elbow drop. White hit a Saito suplex. After the pile driver on the apron, Young went for another one, but White kind of countered out of that, hit the half and half suplex, and then followed that up with his Blade Runner for the Blade Runner finisher for the 3 count of the victory. Like I said, really good match. I've known about Jay White for a long time in New Japan. Sorry, some noise. Anyway, I've known about Jay White for a long time. New Japan has been leading Bullet Club, so I've been aware of him, and this is kind of my first time seeing him in an actual match in this case. And Eric Young worked well with him, and to be honest, really bounced off everything, and it seemed to go really well, and it does help lead to some very intriguing points when we get to a later match there. After that, we had the Virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo's Open Challenge for one of her 2 championships. She is the Ring of Honor Women's Champion. we'll get to Ring of Honor a little bit later. And then she's also the AAA promotion out of Mexico. Basically, is their women's champion. I think that's the Reina del Reyes is the proper term there. And so she threw an open challenge. Someone could come and challenge for one of those championships on the show tonight. A competitor named Miranda Alays accepted the challenge, and she chose to challenge for the Ring of Honor Championship. Alays primarily competed in Ring of Honor, so again, we'll get to a bit of what with Ring of Honor is going on there. So right off the bat, Alays had went for a quick roll-up. Perasso fought out of that, got on a body scissors. Elise came back at a head scissors. Perasso came back and hit kind of a, let's see, what did I write there? She locked on a surfboard chin lock maneuver. And Perasso was doing a lot of submission wrestling. Elise is doing more of the high-flying luchador stuff. She hit the spike run on Perasso. Perasso hit a kind of snap forearm suplex maneuver. It's kind of like it was almost like a fisherman's suplex, but it snapped over, and it was more of a release. It was actually, again, a really nice move. Elise tried to lock on her cross-face finisher, but Perasso kind of rolled that into a pin. Perasso then dodged a flying knee and locked on Rings of Saturn, and Elise tapped out. Really good, solid match. Good pacing. Good. For something that's obviously supposed to be an open challenge, so you don't know who your opponent's supposed to be going into it. It felt like a match that sort of, Perasso really did have to fight through and fight hard to retain her championship. So overall, that was not a terrible match at all. It was quite enjoyable. Okay, our next match is the Impact Digital Media Championship match, Matt Cardona versus Jordan Grace. Okay, so for those of you, I guess most of you are aware of who Matt Cardona is. He's better known probably as Zack Ryder from WWE. When he got released, he's kind of bounced around the indies, and he kind of carved this name for himself as, in Game Changer Wrestling, which is a very hardcore wrestling company. He kind of went in as sort of the anti-hardcore guy, and he won their championship, building himself up as a major heel. He's kind of also popped up as a babyface very briefly in Impact, challenging for the World Championship, but in his desire to get a championship, he wound up challenging Jordan Grace, who was their digital media champion. And yes, if you haven't realized, Jordan is a woman. They do intergender stuff here. And he cheated to win. He hit her with a steel chair and knocked her out to hit his finisher, which I can't remember what it's called now. It's the Rough Rider. We'll just call it that for now. And so from there, to win that championship, and now he's turned heel there too. Anyway, and in the meantime from there, he also won the NWA World Heavyweight Championship from Billy Corgan's NWA promotion. So he's going to be defending that in a few weeks. Anyway, right off the bat, the funny thing that happened that as the competitors are all in the ring, the belt's being held up, the lights go out in the arena, and it took a couple minutes for them to get back on. Grace drove Cardona into the corner, began hitting a big suplex into but Cardona what happened was Cardona countered a suplex into a small package pin. Eventually, Grace hit a big suplex. Cardona attempted to walk away after that. Cardona hit a big missile drop kick. Grace came back in a spine buster. At one point, Cardona got thrown out of the ring again. He got the chair out. Looked like he was going to hit, but Grace had gotten wise and drop kicked it back into Cardona's face. She got Cardona back into the ring, and he, unfortunately at this point she decided she wanted to grab the chair and attack him, but the ref pulled the chair away, which enabled Cardona to get some type of, what did he hit? Oh no, Grace hit a meteor into the turnbuckle. Cardona got the chair, got drop kicked in the face. The ref did not quite get the chair out of the ring. Cardona grabbed the chair to try to use it on Grace after I think he had hit a DDT on her, I believe. And Grace responded with a low blow, which got her DQ'd. Which is strange, because you think of that case, okay, technically, yes, the low blow does result in a disqualification, but usually if you're disqualifying to counter a disqualification, it's sometimes nullified, so that's just weird. Or it should have been a double DQ, not a disqualification for Grace. But yeah, Cardona has really remade himself as a heel. If you remember the weird path that Zack Ryder took in WWE, he basically kind of inverted that and turned himself into an ultimate heel rather than an ultimate babyface. And it's taking him to new levels of success. So yeah, this is a good way. I mean, Grace as digital media champion was fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but he's definitely elevated that championship in just as few title defenses that he's had. And from there, we have the Impact Tag Team Championship match. The Good Brothers, formerly the Bullet Club, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, versus the Gorillas of Destiny, a.k.a. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa of Bullet Club. So Tama Tonga basically co-founded Bullet Club alongside Carl Anderson, Prince Devitt, a.k.a. Finn Balor, Bad Luck Fale. Who was the other one? Yeah, so, you know, basically this is the implosion of the Bullet Club. Right on the bat, Anderson and Tama Tonga jump the bell. They just get into the fight right away. Gallows attempts to interfere, but Tonga Loa basically blocks him from doing so. And then Big Schmaz kind of breaks out a bunch of times. Tama Tonga hits a jumping neckbreaker on Anderson. Tonga Loa drove Gallows into the corner. Gallows came back, hit a big pump handle into... It was basically the bitter end finisher that Pete Dunne uses on Tonga Loa. No, on Tama Tonga, sorry. Tama Tonga hit a lateral... hit a lariat on Anderson, that enabled Tonga Loa to get the hot tag. Tonga Loa hit a hip toss into a neckbreaker on Anderson. Tama Tonga tried to hit Anderson with the gun stun, which was Anderson's finisher in New Japan. It's also Tama Tonga's finisher in New Japan as well. As this happened, though, eventually Chris Bay made his way down to the ring. He's part of Bullet Club, so you're thinking, oh, he's interfering on behalf of Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. However, he just kind of served to distract the ref a little bit, and when Tonga Loa told Bay to just get to the back, Jay White got into the ring and attacked Tama Tonga, allowing the Good Brothers to hit the Magic Killer and get the 3 count for the victory. Afterwards, Tonga Loa got beat up, and yep, those guys are now out of Bullet Club, and it looks like the Good Brothers are back in. And that kind of adds to a bit of intrigue into this, as Violent by Design had been working with the Good Brothers to take on the Bullet Club. So, yeah, now this could be looked at as kind of like, hey, wait a minute. If you were in Bullet Club the whole time, why were you hiring us? So could that possibly... Violent by Design is kind of a heel team to begin with, so yeah, could this be a change in tone for that team as well? You know, where do they fit into that storyline? And of course, you know, what do Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa do now that they're out of Bullet Club? Basically, they're effectively out of Bullet Club. Now, granted, you know, traditionally when someone new joins Bullet Club, they're usually geared to become the new takeover. But because Bullet Club is based mainly in New Japan, and with everything that's happened in the last few years, Japan has been in and out of lockdown on several occasions. There's just no way to really tell. So, yeah, again, this does open up some very interesting ideas, and is taking some things in some strange new directions. Okay, our next match is the Knockouts Championship match. Mickie James versus Tasha Steelz. James, during the entrance, threw her jacket right into Steelz' face. Steelz responded by throwing it out into the crowd. Both women began tussling. They rolled right out of the ring when doing so. Steelz blocked a monkey flip and tried to get a pin attempt on James. Steelz dropkicked James off of the apron. It's at this point that Steelz' valet, Sarah Evans, interfered herself in the match, tossing James into the ring post behind the ref's back. And that enabled Steele to kind of get the upper hand, and overall the match was getting really intense, and even to the point that Mickie James herself started taking some liberties with things, and maybe kind of turning heel when Chelsea Green hit the ring. Chelsea Green is Mickie James' best friend, and you're kind of seeing where this is going a bit, where obviously planning for that to turn at some point. She got into a scuffle with Evans, then Green got up on the apron. It looked like maybe, looked like maybe Steele was going to throw James into Green, but then James tossed Steele into Green, knocking Chelsea Green off the apron, and then enabled Mickie James to get the roll-up and the victory. And from there, Chelsea Green and Mickie James celebrate. And the other thing about Chelsea Green is Matt Cardona's real-life wife. So, and she is also on the Indies when she's not in Impact. She's been playing up as a heel. So, someone's turning heel in that part of the storyline. I just don't know who, because Mickie was acting pretty heelish herself during this match. Tasha Steele has been acting like a heel the storyline leading up to this match. I have no idea where this is going. So, yeah, very kind of a weird way. And the match itself, unfortunately, I think it could have really been better. I just found it to be really lacking. It kind of screamed sort of fillery match. And I think maybe people were a little gassed, especially after what happened with the Bullet Club in the previous match. So you can see where that would interfere with things, I think, or affect things. And that leads us to the next match, which is the Impact World Championship match. The champion Moose putting the championship up against W. Morrissey. W. Morrissey, again, for those of you who maybe aren't aware, the former Big Cass in WWE. Right off the bat, just before the match, Brian Myers, who's also been kind of feuding with Morrissey and seeking to align himself with Moose to to get a championship opportunity. I know I recognize Myers from somewhere. I think I want to say he's Wesley Blake from the Blake and Murphy tag team in NXT, but I can't say for certain. Anyway, and that he's also angling for a championship opportunity. And right off the bat, both men just kind of hit each other with lariats simultaneously the whole time. Eventually, Moose dodges the lariat, hits a big spear, but Morrissey gets out of the ring. He power bombs Moose through a table. He power bombs Moose off the apron. It's still not quite enough to get him out of that, though. They're fighting through the whole thing. The power bomb that when Morrissey does it is called the BQE, I believe. Moose hits an Uranagi through a table. And this was a big hoss match, just big impact move. At one point, though, Moose showed some agility by countering a powerbomb into a head scissors, followed that up with a big drop kick. Moose hit a big superplex and then hit the spear for the 3 count of the victory. So if you've watched any of Impact going into this, the big story arc for the last couple of months is Morrissey desperately trying to get a championship, to win a world championship that he feels like he deserves, and unfortunately he comes up short here. Still, though, this was a really fun match, real high impact, real good hoss fight. So, again, very enjoyable. Obviously, it would have been nice to see Cass win, but I keep calling him Cass, sorry. Morrissey win, but yeah, it didn't quite pan out. Still, I think there's a chance that something could pan out later for him. So, hopefully his time will come soon. Okay, so before we get to the last match, I looked it up. Brian Myers was Kurt Hawkins. Duh. I thought he looked, it's like, I mean, the fact is, I was so used to, when I was most exposed to Kurt Hawkins, it was when he was in the Edgeheads, and so he didn't quite look the same as he does now, so that's probably where I got confused. Anyway, it's time to go into our main event, which, yes, I know this picture is going to look really weird, but I'll explain. It's the 10-man tag match between Honor No More versus Team Impact. Honor No More is represented by the Miracle Mike Bennett, Vincent, PCO, Matt Taven, and Kenny King. Team Impact is Chris Sabin, Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Rhino, and Steve Macklin. Now, you're not seeing either Willie Mack or Steve Maclin in that picture. Steve Maclin replaced the living weapon, Josh Alexander. Storyline is because Alexander is seeking another world title opportunity, roughed up some Impact officials, and so he's out of the main event. Also, the off-screen reason is because Alexander's work visa and his contract have both expired, and he's kind of got to clear those up before he can do anything else. You know, even working in other companies, so yeah, that's the weird part. And then storyline-wise, Eddie Edwards was originally supposed to be in this match, but then he got jumped backstage by someone and thus was ruled unable to compete due to being beaten up. So he got replaced by Willie Mack. Steve Maclin replaced Josh Alexander. Okay, and so Honor No More are basically some people who have crossed over from Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is on hiatus. It's not quite closed, but they kind of treat it like it has. They freed all their talent from their contract. The pandemic hit them really, really hard, and while they tried to just struggle through as best they could, eventually it got to the point where it's like they couldn't afford to just pay everyone and be in these very small, barely filled arenas because of all the restrictions. They are going to come back WrestleMania weekend. They're coming back at another time after that. But right now, like I said, they freed everyone from their contract except, I believe, their champions. And so their championships have been defended on Impact Wrestling to help kind of keep some exposure up. And so this group is now seen as invaders of Impact from Ring of Honor, though they've completely disassociated themselves with the brand. Okay. That was a mouthful, and this match definitely had a lot of action in it. There was a big brawl. Basically, the whole thing broke out immediately before the bell even rang. Everyone started fighting with each other. PCO slammed Rich Swann's head off of the ring barricade. Eventually, Maclin rolled Mike Bennett into the ring to properly start the match. Chris Sabin came in. He had a head scissors off the second rope. Tavon hit Rich Swann with a big roundhouse kick. Kenny King hit a spinning heel kick to Willie Mack. Mack hit a shoulder block and a drop kick on Kenny King. Rich Swann got in at one point, but everyone kind of began to dominate on him. He hit a few maneuvers, but then everyone, all of Honor No More, grouped up on him, and Vincent hit a double stomp that drove Swann all the way to the floor. This is where the real big schmoz broke out. At one point, Kenny King threw PCO. Let's try to get everything here. PCO tried to spear Swann, but he dodged it and went flying through the ropes. And that schmoz that broke out afterwards, the ref got knocked out when Mike Bennett. Wait, who did I throw? Okay. No, Maclin, Kenny King threw Steve Maclin into the ref, and part of the Steve Maclin story is he had been getting beaten up by Honor No More a few times, and he joined up with this, but it seems like no one can trust him, especially Eddie Edwards. That might come back later. And this caused this huge big schmoz. Meanwhile, Rhino is just standing there on the apron waiting to get tagged in as all these guys are hitting flips and planches to the outside of the ring, taking everyone out. PCO hits a moonsault to the outside of the ring and takes out everyone. Finally, Rhino finds himself in the ring with Taven, Mike Bennett, and Maria Kanellis Bennett. And he makes it like he wants to spear Maria. Instead, Eddie Edwards comes down with a Singapore cane, or a kendo stick. He makes like he's going to hit Bennett and Taven. He scares them out of the ring. It's like, okay, now Maria's okay to be speared, but then he wheels around and immediately takes out Rhino. Why do they always turn on Rhino? Seriously, in preparation for this, I got Impact Plus, and I was watching an old show, and that one, it had Rob Van Dam turning on Rhino. So it's like, yeah, why do they always turn on Rhino? But yeah, it turns out that Eddie Edwards is in league with Honor No More. He's the guy who brought them there. He's the seventh man in this case. And yeah, basically they KO Rich Swann, and then they pull Rhino with he takes Rhino with the kendo stick, and they pull Kenny King on top of Rhino and revive the ref for the 3 count of the victory. So Honor No More and their new member or possible leader, Eddie Edwards, then are, as a result of this, Honor No More are officially contracted people on Impact and part of the Impact roster from here until they decide they aren't anymore. So like I said, the match overall was pretty good. Sorry, just adjusting myself there. The match was pretty good. Did a good job of telling the story. Definitely had kind of a car crash quality to it at some point, especially with the ref getting taken out and then everyone just taking these suicide moves while Rhino is just standing there, which I just couldn't help find a tiny bit hilarious. Still, this was enjoyable. It's definitely setting up further opportunities down the line. I do look forward to how that is going to play out, and definitely where it's going to go from here. I don't know if they can go quite into the world title scene just yet, since that's getting kind of, for lack of a term, blocked up, but you never know. And so where everything can wind up going. As for the show overall, well, like I said, I think a lot of the matches were really good. Most of them were really well paced. Just, again, 11 matches, that's a WrestleMania card. That's just way too many matches for a show like this. It's like, I get that, especially when you're doing something like that, the more people who appear on the show, the better, the more pay there is. But still, 11 matches is too big for a show like that. Like, this isn't supposed to be one of their bigger shows either. This is, Rebellion's their next pay-per-view, so that's really where the money should be. Like, this was just basically an Impact Plus special event. And, yeah, but still, like I said, overall it was enjoyable, but I don't know if I could give it to a full recommendation. Again, just because of the match overkill basically did this, and I am going to give Impact No Surrender 2022 a B. Like I said, overall enjoyable, just match overkill. Okay, so I guess in other news, yes, I am aware. I did not watch Elimination Chamber, but I am aware of what happened. Pretty much what I thought was going to happen. So, yeah, I guess we're getting, I don't know if it's champion versus champion. I don't know if it's necessarily title for title. That's the one thing I can't say for certain. But yeah, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns is now champion versus champion. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I'm aware of what happened. Next video is probably, there might be another kind of channel update vlog type thing, since, NFL season's over, not Madden, but golf. And let's see, after that, it's going to be the random trade review on Transformers Classics #1. Obviously, next movie review is going to be The Batman. Wrestling-wise, the next major show is another Impact show, actually. It's Sacrifice. So that's on the 5th. We'll probably cover that then. Was it the 5th or the 6th? Oh, I don't have my paper right here right now. So, yeah, that'll be the next one to watch, I think. I'd like to do the NWA Crockett Cup, but I'm not entirely sure. I'll try to see if I can get to it or not. Now, there was supposed to be an NXT show in March, but they have decided to move that to WrestleMania week, basically. So it's going to be NXT Stand and Deliver, WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2. That's just going to be a long week. And then TNA's I keep calling them TNA, sorry. Impact's next big pay-per-view is Rebellion, and that's in April. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/sleepytime for Cat Productions, where you can help me expand my wrestling coverage to stuff beyond WWE, NXT, and the occasional AEW free show.